hello. Yes, I know I'm early. I changed it and then decided to come on. I put the music on for a little bit just to do everything. Hope you're all doing well. I've just made this big again. I don't know what I do here. I can't see myself or see anything, but that's all right. We're okay. I have been doing lots of thinking, which is always pretty dangerous stuff when I start thinking. I'm hoping I'm online. I'm hoping you can see me. Yes, you can. Good. Oh, I can still hear the music. Cool. I need to work out how to switch that off now. Okay, music, background music. I need to pause it. That was called Feeding the Ducks, by the way. Feeding the Ducks. Hey, short order. I sent you an email earlier today. Did you get it? Because I thought you might be interested in part of the next part of the lawsuit we're going to look at. I have been thinking, and I've come up with a range of questions from yesterday. So if you don't remember what we did last night with that Priscilla's, Alicia Priscilla, and she listed a whole pile. She went through all of her stuff. So here is some questions that I've come up with. I've thought about. How did Priscilla purchase a car if she didn't have a license on her and allegedly had no money? Because she talked about, I've been driving, just got home. Because remember rightly, she said in one part of the state that he took her license away from her, but she was still able to buy a car. I don't know about you, but in Australia, you need to have a license to be able to buy a car, generally. Or it has to be in the name of somebody with a license. So the fact that she says it's in her name would sort of indicate to me that she needed to have a license. And where did the money come from to make these purchases from? And the other question I've got is, what happened to her husband? Where did her husband go? She'd said that she'd gotten married during one of the times that she left Shekinah. We don't know what happened. We don't know. There was no mention of a divorce, or there was no mention of a separation. This is no mention. He's just disappeared. What happened there? Because I think that is pertinent. I think part of that is because if you remember, it was she did put in there the alleged that I had said that she'd committed adultery. So I've got that question. And what I've been able to ascertain at the moment is that so far it's a labour dispute, not getting paid for work done. So that is a like in a that would be a fair work matter, not necessarily a civil. That to a different department to be done with. So they are my questions from last night. Now I did look ahead, and I did send short order some, which I know she hasn't had a look at yet, because it's going to get rather interesting now, because we're going to be introduced to some other people who are suing. And my final point is I need to show you this. Let me just go. I need to just open this. We'll stay on here. We have got something very interesting here. And again, I think this is really important to the case. Now, I'm trying to look at this objectively. I'm trying to look at this as if how I would view this if I was looking like a judge. It says, up until that point, Robert and Shekinah, through Hannah and Shirley, continued to control Miss Lee's bank account and have to this day failed to pay her what she was owed for her work at RCP, Imaginating, or Alpha Plus Realty. Once again, 7M does not appear in any of her claim and seems to be guilty by association. Okay, so it gives me more, like, I still have to wonder why on earth did they then appear in a documentary about 7M when their complaints never been about 7M. They just put 7M in because hopefully the mud will stick. Hopefully you can see that. You've been able to see that. So her complaints with other, but see, it seems to be a way, for me, it's a wage. It's more of an employment issue rather than something than anything. I don't know how Robert Shinn could easily say it was consensual. How do you prove that there was consensual? I don't know. But that's where the husband, knowing there was a husband around with her. So this is about Marilyn and David Gonzalez. Now this is where we're getting a bit interesting. Again, we're only talking about Shekinah. Then we get to one of the dancers, and this is where Shorter's expertise in the entertainment industry is going to be vital, because Aubrey has made a complaint, and I just thought it was management. But we'll see. So Marilyn, let's first of all, we'll do this, and then we'll go back to the rant that she made from before. So that's what we've got here. So it says the cross defendants took similar advantage of Marilyn and David Gonzalez. Marilyn and David are married. In 2019, Marilyn was pregnant and the young couple was looking for a home to buy. Cross-defendant Matthew Shinn was their real estate agent. This also, may I add, will remember how Katie Joyce said that they didn't like kids? He didn't like kids or anything. Well, there's people joining the church that have got kids. They found and purchased a home Matthew in August 2020. Matthew invited David to Shekinah Bible study in September 2020, and Marilyn joined. After Marilyn and David attended Bible study, they were invited to visit Shekinah. About a week later, they were invited to join. So they were invited to visit, then invited to join. Shekinah assigned cross-defendant Shirley Kim as Marilyn's mentor. Matthew was David's mentor. Shirley started going to their house every Tuesday to meet with Marilyn. When Shirley met with Marilyn, she just let Marilyn talk. They did not study the Bible. Shirley used these meetings to get close to Marilyn and find things in common with her. Matthew talked with David about how good Matthew's life was and how Shekinah had helped him. David thought Shekinah would help his family and make their life better too. Daniel and Young, who's Young? Okay, repeatedly told stories to David about things that had gone wrong with their life when they questioned Robert or did not follow Robert's instructions. Marilyn and David were told to trust Shekinah and the man of God. They were told not to ask questions, and that they should be taken care of by Shekinah. They were told all they needed to do was trust and pray. After about a month of meetings with Marilyn, Shirley, and Matthew, told Marilyn that Robert thought it would be a good idea for Marilyn and David to sell their house and move to wherever it is. Marilyn and David ultimately agreed to list the house in late 2021. It sold very quickly. Matthew was the seller's agent on the deal. In February 2021, Matthew had David perform a shower remodel for an RCP property for free, so David would learn to serve others for God's work. Matthew then told David to quit his job with the City of Orange. Around that time, David met with Robert, Hannah, Shirley, and another Shekinah member, Daniel Kim. Robert asked David how much he makes per job, and told David to come to work for him. David told Robert to match his pay from City of Orange. Robert told Shirley and Hannah to pay David out of the studio on the Mount. Okay. Shirley told Marilyn and David that Shekinah would find housing for them. They weren't allowed to pick where they would live and were told that it would be taken care of. Shekinah members helped them pack. When Marilyn went to the house in Tujunga, where Shirley told her she and David would be living, she felt like the house was too extravagant and wondered if she'd be able to make the rent payments. Marilyn was told not to say or ask anything because the leasing agent was present, and another Shekinah member, pretending to be someone else, was there to sign the lease so they could qualify. Again, she was told by Shirley that it was all taken care of. In fact, Marilyn and David could not afford the $5,000 a month rent, so another Shekinah member signed the lease pretending to be someone else so they could qualify. A true and correct copy of the lease is attached to Exhibit A. Shirley and Shekinah knew that Marilyn and David could not afford the house. Shekinah had failed for them. To date, the cross-defendants refused to return to Marilyn and David the $10,000 they paid as deposit for rental. Marilyn also had to pay for household groceries and utilities. Shirley told Marilyn not to ask questions regarding housing because Shirley would handle everything, and any attempt by Marilyn to ask questions was shut down. Simultaneously, Matthew instructed David to quit his job in Orange, knowing that Marilyn's income was insufficient to pay the $5,000 monthly lease chosen by Shirley, an amount that Marilyn and David were not aware of until it was too late, and their home was already in escrow. In fact, Shirley was the number one contact with was the one in contact with the leasing office, and Marilyn and David were not even aware of the location of the house until the day they moved in. After Marilyn and David's home was in escrow, Shirley sent a text message asking Marilyn for a check for $15,000, claiming it was for moving costs. When Marilyn informed Shirley she did not have the funds, Shirley told Marilyn to text and give her $7,500 and she would cover the rest. Marilyn and David relied on these representations, believing that Shirley and Shekinah were helping them cover the cost of living. When Marilyn complained to Shirley that she couldn't afford all of these expenses, Shirley shut her down and said she needed to learn to submit and serve others. On March 13, 2021, just 1 week after Marilyn and David moved to Tujunga, Shirley added herself to their bank account, explaining that she would be monitoring the account and helping David and Marilyn get debt-free. However, she wired herself $7,500 that she had paid to help them without discussing it with Marilyn and David. Instead, they found out by reviewing their bank statements and found themselves stuck with a $5,000 rental they could not afford and no financial assistance, despite the representation that Shirley and Shekinah would take care of everything. Around the same time, Marilyn noticed that Shirley was taking $5,000 a month from Marilyn and David's account to pay the rent. On March 20, 2021, 2 weeks after moving to the house that Shirley found, she surprised Marilyn and David by texting them, telling them that they'd have roommates moving in later that day. Marilyn and David already had a teenage and a 1-year-old and did not want strangers moving in. Cross-complainants Kaylee Gray and Kevin Davis moved in a couple of hours later. After Shirley told them they'd be moving in. Marilyn and David had already sold their house and suddenly felt stuck. Around the same time they moved, Matthew informed David and Marilyn that studio on the month amount would employ them and they would seek payments as evidence of their relocation and sell their house. Matthew and Shirley told Marilyn and David that this would help them avoid or reduce certain taxes. Shirley did send them this payment, but later sent it back. Marilyn and David did not keep any of the payments. Around the same time, Matthew told David he'd be working at the Shekinah property and asked David for a quote for his services. David told Matthew that the cost of his services. Matthew later told David that it was a blessing to God's work and it was a blessing to do God's work and never pay him. David worked almost 12-hour days without any pay. Matthew would sometimes give David's clients from Matthew's real estate work for alpha. Matthew initially in 2021 told David to charge $100 per hour of work. In 2022, Matthew told David to charge $150 per hour. Matthew told David that these instructions came from Robert. David followed these instructions. Hello, Mimi. Matthew took his cut as their real estate agent on the sale of their house. Shekinah required them to give 10% of what was left as tithe, another 10% to the man of God as a cash donation. Christina Keller, a longtime member and sub-mentor of Shekinah, gave Marilyn and David receipts that reflected only about 40% of the tithes that they gave Shekinah. as I said, tithes and offerings are not usually receipted as a general rule. Although you can, they will give you statements about what you've done, like what you've given, but you can't use them for tax purposes anyway. Marilyn and David were instructed by Shekinah on tithes and donations throughout their time with Shekinah. Shirley first told Marilyn about tithes and donations in or around November 2020. Shirley instructed Marilyn to give 10% tithe to Shekinah, 10% offering to the man of God for Shin. Where's the other 10%? That's only 20%. Shirley told Marilyn that the cash was preferred for both tithes and man of God offerings, especially for man of God offerings were strictly cash. Shirley also told Marilyn, we also bless the man of God. He's the connection to God himself, and the more you give, the more you'll be blessed back. Shirley gave Marilyn constant instructions and reminders about tithes orally as well as over text and email. Marilyn was under the impression that tithes and offerings were given for normal church purposes. For example, repairs to church, helping people in need, supporting the church. She only found out later this was not the case. That's the thing. Do they have receipts? I don't know. I mean, I'd love to see the text messages. I'd love to see the email messages. Before joining Shekinah, David had been told by his brother, a Shekinah member, that tithes went to other churches. All right. So now David's brother is in Shekinah as well. All right. You need to remember that for later. Matthew told David orally over text that was very important to tithe. Initially, Matthew told David the extra 10% to the man of God was only if he wished to give it. A week or two later, Matthew told David to give the extra 10% to man of God. During his time at Shekinah, Matthew told David he would be blessed. He gave more in tithes and donations. Matthew said orally at Bible study nights on Tuesday and over text. During sermons on Sundays and Wednesdays, Robert would tell the whole church that it was good to give tithes and donations because blessings would come. Shirley also instructed them to pay off the debt on their car. Okay. So there obviously might be money there if they had to pay off the debt of their car. At first, Marilyn and David were grateful to have someone help manage their money. But as soon as Marilyn realised that Shirley would exert total control over their accounts, Shirley would often refuse to let Marilyn buy things for herself, even underwear. Sometimes Shirley would wire money from Marilyn and David's account to a personal Chase account. David and Marilyn were only allowed to eat out once a month on a limited budget, less than $100 for their family of four, and Shirley had to approve the restaurant they chose. Well, if you were in debt, I guess I could see that happening. I mean, you can look at this rationally, right? If they were having trouble managing their money, wouldn't you say that it would make sense? I would have thought so. Because, and remember, they had a family of four, so they had kids. So remember, Katie says, Robert doesn't like kids. Anyway, Shirley knew Marilyn's full schedule. Marilyn reported to Shirley what she did from the time she woke up to the time she went to sleep, when she went to the bathroom, and what she ate. Shirley often yelled at Marilyn and used the excuse that it was so Marilyn would grow a thick skin so she could do the work of God. Shekinah, through Shirley, Matthew, and Robert, isolated Marilyn and David from their family and each other. Remember, David's brothers in Shekinah. Marilyn and David did not see each other until nighttime. Well, sometimes that happens with couples too. They go off to work, they're away from each other all day, they only see each other at nighttime. Matthew told David and Shirley told Marilyn to block Marilyn to block their family and friends outside of Shekinah. Sure, this is, I'm seeing a lot of Shirley here. So this is a personal thing or a business thing. I know, it's very confusing. This is confusing. I've read it several times. And I can't tell you. Shirley claimed that this was temporary so that they could have more time with God to pray and study the Bible. See, what they're saying is that David's brother was also in Shekinah. So David and his brother would have been, if they would separated them by gender, David and his brother would have seen each other. In April 2021, someone from David's family had contacted their oldest daughter to say David's dad was really sick, and their daughter relayed the message to Marilyn. Marilyn asked if she could tell David. Shirley said she would take care of it, but never actually told David. Hello, Deanne. Shirley also said that Marilyn should get on birth control, but Marilyn was hesitant as she suffered from infertility. Shirley kept pushing it and said the man of God, Robert, said it was best and that he used to be a doctor. Marilyn tried to get an appointment in April for birth control, but the next appointment was in June or July. Remember, she had 2 kids already as well. In May 2021, Marilyn was pregnant but didn't know it. When she found out in July 2021 that she was already 3 months old, she had a panic attack about the fact that she would have to tell Shirley. Shirley asked what she was going to do about it and asked whether Marilyn was going to get paid on maternity leave. Marilyn felt like she was getting attacked instead of congratulated. So where was Marilyn working then? Because if she was working within the confines of Shekinah, wouldn't they know about maternity leave? I'm confused. Marilyn had Bible study later that day. She agreed to be pregnant but was unwelcome at Shekinah. Shirley said that everyone in Shekinah was too busy to have children and told Marilyn not to tell other people she was pregnant. Shirley was giving Marilyn the silent treatment and ignoring her. Marilyn started having nightmares that Shekinah would take her baby. Marilyn had not been allowed to take the kids out to the park or the movies, and she did not want to raise her new baby in Shekinah. Shirley instructed Marilyn to perform craft services for one of 7M's video shoots in July 2021. Marilyn was expected to perform this work for free as it was God's work. Robert later bragged during tournament that they made $100,000 from that video shoot. Marilyn and David had been forbidden from going out to Orange where the family lived. But on one Sunday in August, they snuck out of the house to go. Marilyn had unblocked a family member from her phone. They told Marilyn that one of the brothers was getting married. Marilyn was already feeling depressed and wanted to see her brother get married. So she and David snuck out and went to see him. Her brother cried after not having any contact with Marilyn for 4 months. And Marilyn realized what she was sacrificing by being in Shekinah. Hello, Joanne. Marilyn and David left Shekinah on August 2, 2022. Marilyn and David Shekinah cross-defendants had wrongfully taken nearly $150,000 from them, in addition to failing to pay them for their work for the cross-defendants. After leaving Shekinah, Marilyn and David had a hard time adjusting to regular life. In Shekinah, had been told what to do by their mentors, but that you should deprive yourself of anything you find joy in. On October 7, 2022, they'd left, hadn't they? David performed a construction job for one of Matthew's clients. The client agreed to pay David $1,500 for the completed job, and did pay David $1,000 in advance. On December 17, 2022, the client told David that he was going to review the completed job in person with Matthew Shin. On December 29, 2022, after multiple attempts to contact the client for payment, the client paid another $2,500 January 30, 2023. To date, David has not been paid the remaining $2,000 balance on the project by the client. On information and belief, Matthew told the client not to pay David, as David received a text message on December 17, 2022, saying that she would be continuing the job with Matthew. Question. Why did he go back and do the job if he left? Any questions from that part of the story? There's a lot there not making sense again. So here's the other issue. Did she actually have the baby? And what happened to the brother? I want the rest of the story. the next part's going to be a doozy. Aubrey. Okay, so we have one mention, although you need a pie chart, short order. Oh, look, I actually had a notebook today, and I started trying to track it all, and I can't keep track of it all. Right. So, but at the end, here's the thing. It would seem that Robert is not involved in the day-to-day management of the business. There's other people involved. Now, is there other than the fact that he's the CEO, are we certain the instructions are from him? So yeah, as I said, so why did he go back and do it? If he left in August, why did he go back in October and do a job, knowing that it was Matthew Shinn and there could be some complications to that? Back to the baby, and what happened to David's brother? It sounds like a Shirley problem. Correct. Well, now we're going to have a Hannah problem. Short order. It's going to be and the other thing, if you noticed, they only had to do 10 and 10. There was no 10, 10, 10. They only had to pay 10 and 10. So, and they were a family of 4, so there were 2 adults and 2 children as well. So, all right. So Aubrey Fisher Green is a professional dancer. His TikTok account has over 2.2 million followers. Aubrey's friends introduced him to Shekinah. They were excited about going to see Robert, the man of God. Aubrey is a Christian and wanted to be part of a church. He was so interested. He soon found out that Shekinah was invitation only, and that Robert told him a mission would depend on how bad you want it. Robert made it seem to Aubrey like admission was the opportunity of a lifetime. Initially, Aubrey trusted Robert because his friends did. Aubrey started attending Bible study every Monday at Robert's house and would stay until 1 or 2 a.m. He was not allowed to tell his girlfriend, Kylie Douglas, where he was going. Aubrey joined Shekinah in the fall of 2020 and started working for the cross defendant 7M around November 2020. So remember, 7M didn't officially start until 2021. When Aubrey first joined 7M, had Aubrey over text transfer all of existing work communications and brand deals over to her because she would take over. I wonder why they keep stating the man of God without following that with a name of who that was. I think it was supposed to be Robert. I think they're implying. All right. So Hannah has told Aubrey, if I'm going to manage you, I need all your work communication. Therefore, Aubrey sent emails introducing Hannah and his new management company. Hannah also instructed Aubrey to put 7M email on his social media profiles. Cross-defendant Hannah referred to herself as the talent manager for 7M, and she handled negotiations with brands that hired Aubrey for dancers. 7M and Hannah did all the negotiating and would tell Aubrey what work he would do for what brand and how much he would get paid. Short order. Isn't that what a management does? Isn't that what a manager does? Does all your negotiations and tell you where you've got to be on what day? Seven M almost immediately took control of Aubrey's business. I'm doing a face palm at the moment. All right. Hannah set up a corporation for Aubrey and hired Chrissy, another Shekinah member that did taxes for all Shekinah affiliated. Yes, they're your scheduler and basically your negotiator. Correct. Right. So Hannah to do taxes for Aubrey's company. 7M received payments directly for any work that Aubrey did and took 20% of the fees Aubrey earned before they would cut Aubrey a check. When Aubrey received payment directly from a brand, he would receive a text from Hannah telling him how much he needed to pay 7M and any photographer, videographer, or choreographer for the project. Yeah. After Hannah would tell Aubrey about a job, Aubrey would have a Zoom call with someone from the brand he was working with. Hannah was present for about 90% of these calls. The brands would give Aubrey instructions on what they wanted. Sometimes Aubrey would give his opinion on what to do. Videos for these jobs would be taken at Aubrey's house, Robert's house, or various church properties. Is there anything wrong here so far? Robert was constantly talking about how much various Shekinah members were making for the church and praised Aubrey for bringing a lot of money into 7M. In early 2021, Aubrey was informed that 7M's management fee would be increasing to 40%. This occurred at a dancers meeting on Monday or a men's meeting on Friday. Robert again preached that those who gave more would be blessed more. 40% is also reasonable. Well, 7M did not provide Aubrey with a consistent accounting of where the funds he earned went. He never received pay stubs from 7M. He did receive texts from Hannah, only containing the breakdown of what the brand paid, what 7M's fees was, and what any photographer fees were. Aubrey then later that 7M was also charging and taking the management fee to the brands that were hiring him. In April 2022, Aubrey did a song promotion arranged by 7M, for which Aubrey was promised. Well, so far he's describing they're describing what a manager does, and the fact that sometimes you get the money after everything else has come out of it. All right. So in April 2022, Aubrey did a song promotion arranged by 7M, for which Aubrey was promised $6,000. Hannah told Aubrey orally in person that 7M had negotiated this deal for him, that he would do the song promotion and get paid $6,000 for it. Hannah never secured this payment for him, although other Shekinah members of Shekinah who worked on the project were paid. 7M also charged Aubrey high fees for videography work done by other Shekinah members, Reno and cross-defendant Isaiah. All right, now we get to Tyre Gate. In or around May 2022, Aubrey bought tyres from American Tyre Depot that were suggested to him by Matthew. The tyres cost him $766.77. Was there a contract mentioned for management and then each job? I wonder. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? I'm thinking that there's other than this flat fee. But I would imagine that each job, there would have to be each contract for each of those jobs. Usually there is. At that time, Aubrey was living with Kylie, Christina, and Lemuel and stored tyres in the garage of their shared residence. In July 2022, Aubrey and Kylie moved to a new apartment. Aubrey left the tyres in the garage because he could not store them in a new apartment. When Aubrey left the tyres, it was understood he would return to them and did not intend to abandon the tyres. In recent months, Aubrey has attempted to reach out to Christina and Lemuel to coordinate picking up his tyres, but has received no response from either. Aubrey gave more than 10% of his income as a donation to Shekinah after being encouraged to do so by Robert, as he did to all cross-complainants. Robert represented this as money was a donation to Shekinah. Aubrey was encouraged to give more than 10% of his income to Shekinah by Robert, Shin, and Aubrey's mentor, Daniel. Robert would tell Aubrey to give tithes and offerings whenever Aubrey saw him speak, such as during church services, dinner meetings, Bible studies. Both Daniel and Robert would give Aubrey warnings that if I didn't, hey Barbara, would give Aubrey warnings that if I didn't give money through tithes and offering, telling Aubrey he would suffer bad consequences. This is actually very poorly written, in my opinion. Sometimes Aubrey was privately and publicly harassed, criticised and rebuked if he didn't give money. This would be done in person, over the phone, texts, and over emails. So that's, yeah. During Robert's twice weekly sermons, Robert would regularly say, the more you give, the more you receive. If you give, you'll receive it. The entire situation is more like a petty court situation. It just seems more trivial than the big picture. Short order. I think the bigger picture is the contracts, but there is nothing there's nothing wrong in the such that they would take out expenses and give him what's left over. There seems to be no. I mean, don't forget, he was able to buy Kylie a pair of, expensive shoes. So he obviously had some money. So when you bless the man of God, you'll be blessed by God, and the blessings will come to those he gave. These phrases were also repeated by mentors, including Daniel, Matthew, and Chloe. During Monday dancer meetings and Tuesdays and Friday men's meetings, Aubrey trusted Robert as his pastor and wanted to be close to God and be blessed, so he gave to China. So during his twice weekly sermons, Kylie's got pay receipt. No, Priscilla's got pay receipts, Deanne. Priscilla's got pay receipts. The Gonzalez showed their lease agreement. During his twice weekly sermons, Roberts would recount stories of Shekinah giving money to other churches and foundations. He also held prophecy nights where other pastors and ministers would come to Shekinah, and Shekinah members would be asked, encouraged, and instructed to give money to these prophets. This made Aubrey think that Shekinah was a giving ministry who gave to support other ministries. In or around March 22, Aubrey was told to delete all of his texts and emails with Shekinah members by either Daniel, Hannah, or Shirley. This was asked of Aubrey multiple times over text. Aubrey did delete the messages as was instructed. Towards the end of his time at Shekinah, Aubrey saw a sense of emptiness. Like Robert and the others in Shekinah were keeping secrets. In August 22, Aubrey left Shekinah and stopped working with 7M. That's his claim. 7M was working like a management company. That's his beef. What's his complaint? I don't know what his complaint, I don't know what his problem is, other than the fact he gave money. It's about the tires. All right, Kylie. Kylie Douglas is a professional dancer. Her TikTok account has 127,000 followers. Kylie's boyfriend Aubrey had been attending Bible studies at the house, and one evening he told her to join him for Robert's house. Robert asked Kylie many questions about what she did and how much money she made, and led her in a sinner's prayer. Kylie joined Shekinah in November 2020 and started working with the cross-pendant 7M in April 2021. And remember, in her story, she already had another job. Kylie was taught by Robert during church services about Shekinah's 10-10-10 practice with respect to members' income. 10% tithe to Shekinah, 10% man of God, 10% in offering to Shekinah. Kylie understood the man of God was to go straight to Robert, but the 20% was supposed to go to church. But see, the Gonzaleses never mentioned the 10-10-10. They only talked about the tithe and the man of God. Was that an admission, or were they all told different things? It's in this thing. When Kylie began working with an M, she was not given the employment contract. Hannah told her 7M would represent her, promote her social media profile, and brand deals. Kylie put 7M information on her social media profiles. Hannah and Robert would take 20% of all of Kylie's 7M deals as a management fee as part of representing her. Even when Kylie got a deal on her own, she'd have to pay a management fee in order to die herself and not be selfish, even though 7M had nothing to do with her getting the deal. But if you got a deal on your own, you still have a manager. What, 10-10-10? Yes, they did. They said Shekinah twice. He left. I thought they could. Here's the thing, they've all left. So she was upset because even when she got her own deals, they were still. Kylie also had to pay separate fees for videography. There are many examples of cross defendants requiring donations from Kylie and other cross complainants as proof that they'd died to themselves and were loyal to Robert and Shekinah. Robert had some cross defendants make an offering to Ches, another Shekinah member, at a Bible study. They sent cross defendant Isaiah a Venmo of these funds. Robert then gave cash to Ches cash. The same thing happened on what we call prophecy nights. Shekinah members had come up with a number to give to religious prophets. At one point, Kylie offered the entire $3,500 she had in her bank account because she really wanted to give her all for God. Hannah approved this donation. However, when Robert announced in the pulpit how much he was giving the prophets, it added up to what Kylie and the cross defendants were giving. On information and belief, Robert pocketed the difference as the numbers never added up. Cross-defendant Aubrey gave Kylie 2 pairs of Louis Vuitton shoes for her birthday and Christmas. As soon as Kylie told Hannah, Hannah convinced her that Kylie was not ready to receive a gift like that. Hannah told Kylie to give the shoes to her at the next service. A little while later, Hannah took Kylie and a few other members to lunch. She told them all about how Kylie did not deserve the gift and took everyone in the mall and returned the shoes in front of Kylie. She then told Kylie and another member to pick out bags using the money returned from the returned shoes gifted by Aubrey. As well as other cost complainants, Kylie was told that in order to do everything she could for God, she needed to fully submit to Shekinah. In practice, this meant reporting everything she did to Hannah, who would then relay the information to Robert. Hannah was constantly telling Kylie that she needed to give more to Shekinah, that she needed to empty her schedule for Shekinah if she wanted to be invited to do things, to be included in 7M's dances, dance jobs, and events. When Kylie joined Shekinah, she'd already had her own phone line, tax preparer, car lease, apartment, various jobs and company that she ran. Hannah endeavored to bring all of those under Shekinah's control. Hannah told Kylie multiple times on Aubrey's phone line, which was connected to Shirley's. And Hannah yelled at Kylie when Hannah told Kylie's family friend does her taxes. Hannah told Kylie to tell her mum that she'd be getting her taxes done on her own and told Kylie to pay Chrissy $200 for them. But Kylie was already getting her taxes done for free, so she told Hannah no, and Hannah yelled at Kylie for this. Robert and Hannah wanted Aubrey and Kylie to move into a home with other members at first. Aubrey and Kylie declined. Kylie told them it was the furthest from her job and she had gotten a new lease, so her miles would go up. As a result, she and Aubrey got yelled at by Robert in the middle of a Shekinah service, and he used Aubrey and Kylie as an example of members who were not properly submitted to Shekinah and God. At that point, Aubrey and Kylie felt they had no choice but to move in with other Shekinah members, which resulted in Kylie paying more for rent, driving further for all her jobs, and racking up her lease miles. Kylie paid rent to Chrissy through Zelle. So is she working another job here? Hannah continued to pressure Kylie to clear up her schedule for Shekinah. She felt drained by being excluded, so she quit a job for a performing arts after-school program that she loved working. So she'd signed up for management, and she wasn't happy she wasn't getting work. Hannah told Kylie she'd make $2,000 a month from social media jobs and told her not to worry about the money. Months later, Kylie was still not included in Shekinah activities or making the money as promised. Hannah insinuated that Kylie should be in better shape and had Kylie switch gyms to be around Shekinah family more. Kylie was paying $900 a month at her old gym, but Hannah made her sign up for a gym pay for a 2-year commitment at $800. Kylie was frequently told to get in shape and was asked questions on what she used to weigh herself. Kylie was sent by Chrissy and Hannah to go grocery shopping for the house and was not allowed to buy things that were not on sale and if it was not a necessity. Even though groceries were supposed to be included in their rent, Kylie would pay out of pocket at Costco or Food for Less. Living at a house with Shekinah members exhausted Kylie. Everything she did was reported by Chrissy to Hannah, her mentor. If Kylie left a dish in the sink or didn't wake up on time for morning prayer or came home late or didn't make dinner, Hannah would yell at her and use these things as an excuse not to include her in Shekinah activities. The Shekinah women's meetings on Friday were equally as disturbing. Kylie would buy the food for dinner for many meetings and bring the mentors Starbucks. Kylie would even buy food for the praise and worship team on Sundays, service days. Kylie was brainwashed into thinking she needed to buy everything she could for them so that they would know she was dying to herself and not being selfish. Hannah frequently called Kylie out for doing something wrong. Kylie would fight back tears at the meeting, cry to sleep. Hannah would frequently tell Kylie, even in front of other Shekinah members, that Kylie was sucking on her mother's titties during visiting her family or to celebrate holidays with her family. On one occasion, after Kylie had asked Hannah about seeing her family, Hannah intentionally brought Kylie, Alex, Jenny, and Chrissy into the women's room at Shekinah, where Hannah berated Kylie for 2 hours. This included saying that Kylie was sucking on her mother's titties. Kylie found her time at Shekinah mentally draining. She was never good enough, was left for many minor activities, was separated from her own boyfriend all the time. It was hard to grow her relationship when the mentors controlled everything. Kylie was not allowed to ask other members to do videos. She had to wait until she was asked. Correct, Deanne, that's where she got that quote. to wait to post videos until other dancers with more followers had posted to get all the attraction on their pages. On information and beliefs, 7M withheld jobs from Kylie in favour of other dancers. This stunted Kylie's growth as a social media influencer. Maybe she wasn't a great dancer. I don't know. Hannah and Shekinah worked to isolate Kylie from everyone in her life. Hannah told Kylie she needed to devote all her time to Shekinah, but intentionally excluded Kylie from many of Shekinah events because she said Kylie was not devoted enough. This frequently kept Kylie apart from her boyfriend, Aubrey. Hannah told Kylie to spend as much time at home as possible so Kylie could observe Chrissy and pick up good habits. Hannah would berate Kylie and embarrass her in front of others for wanting to spend time with her family. Hannah would tell Kylie that she would not be included in church services if she left to visit her family. Hannah would tell Kylie that she should not see her family when they asked to see her. She should only see family on her terms. I can see that point, but if you're trying to work, if you're working, you just can't drop everything. When Kylie told Hannah she wanted to hang out with Kaylee, Hannah told Kylie that new Shekinah members would not hang out together to keep bad ideas from forming. This was the last straw when one day at the gym, Robert said he would crack Kylie's back, but then started hip thrusting into her from behind. She filed a police report against him, which is attached Exhibit B. After Robert hip thrust her from behind, Kylie felt distraught, confused, strained, sad, uncomfortable. Kylie was afraid of speaking up about the experience with Robert would negatively affect her status in Shekinah because Robert was so highly regarded. Kylie did not know who she could trust and felt she could not tell anyone. In July 2022, Kylie left Shekinah and stopped working with 7M. And that is Kylie's story. Questions? That's the way you crack a back, standing up. There are hips. Is it? Is it the way you crack a back? Is it really? So wow. I'm going to have a look at that. Yeah. Ah. Wow. Ah. No, there you go, Deanne. So it could possibly be, is that why they didn't do anything about it? I mean, if he was going to crack her back, either way, he was going to. The interview Kylie did where she verbalized themselves. Well, that's part of what I'm. That's part of my what I'm saying. The story slightly changed, and I don't know what to make of that. But look, it's interesting because other people have said that you've got to put someone's hand on their bottom, and she would not like that either. She would have done him for sexual harassment anyway, I think. So I'm assuming when she left Shekinah, then hang on, let's have a look at this. Let's have a look at this. All right.
Oh, you guys see that move done all the time. If you're going to adjust or mobilize your friends, okay, find someone who
that won't sue you.
That won't sue you. And here is the best way to do it. Have them cross one arm over and the other one. Pull the elbows together like this. Try to grab both elbows, pull them into the chest.
Oh, look.
One hand. Have them rest the chin on the chest. Get down low, good squat position for you. Get your other hand back. So I'm pulling the elbows in the chest. Take a deep breath in, and what you want to do is put your point of contact with your chest, your sternum, right in the middle of the back. So scoot down, take a deep breath all the way in, and let it all the way out. And what you do is lean up and wait till they relax. Give them a little pop, like this. And if it's for a dude, elbows in, chin in the chest, big grip, big bear hug. Some just went there. Breath in, all the way out, lean back, pop. Make sure they let their air out, and you can.
Hip thrust. Wow. So he was right. So she said the last one was when he said he'd crack Carly's back, but then started hip thrusting her from behind. She filed a police report against him. First time I had it done, I kind of felt violated too, says Deanne. Well, that would probably explain it as well, because I mean that's pretty intense. Hello, Plan to Create. So I am wondering whether particularly Aubrey's state, like Aubrey's thing was really about how a management company worked, but I wanted to just show you this briefly. She was on a bit of a rant today. I've got to get back to here. I've got to get back to this one. Hang on. All right, it says remove your video now. My address is clearly visible in multiple email screenshots you shared. You know damn well that I didn't send those emails to you. Stop talking about my son. Stop accusing me of being behind this. You accuse me of doxing and go on and dox me while playing victim. You shared emails to CPS with my son's name listed in violation of his privacy as a minor child. If you didn't do this, call the police. Don't post it on YouTube while putting my son and me in further danger. So then she's put, I will not elaborate. I am not elaborating anymore. Please do not private message me asking me about my recent story. I did not respond to any private messages from people that I don't know due to stalking and harassment that my family is experiencing at this time. You are doxing me. Stop gaslighting me. Take your video down, my address and my son's private information. Now, at that point, I, like the rest of everybody else, had no idea who she was talking about. And, you know, and then she's posted this. If you have anyone or anything cutting you off from family, friends, and or controlling your housing paycheck, then you are in an abusive relationship period. The psychological, mental, emotional, financial, sexual, and spiritual abuse they've endured is gut-wrenching, especially Robert and his complicit wife is free, continuing to abuse others under the guise manipulation of religion, God, church, and afterlife, while literally profiting off their trauma and drama. Abuse of power and weaponized religion is an understatement. Kudos to the 7+ survivors who publicly shared their story and the families who refuse to give up to get their kids out. I hope victims of abuse are finally believed in the eyes of the law that you can get justice done. Correct. I know who it is. I know who it is. The video was privated. The original video was privated, and I believe it was said that it was an accident. They didn't realise that that private. And look, I've done it when you're sharing something and then suddenly you realise that you've shared something you shouldn't. But I don't think it deserved that response. I mean, this is the person who has put a lot of stuff about her son up, and also doxed Miranda and Haynes. Remember? She had doxed them. So let's have a look what Kevin Davis has said, because again, we'll see how this will pan out. But I've noticed that every single part of this has got a different, I want to say, there's a different, they all focus on the different, but I saw KJ's Ross and KJ's doing an uploading thing, but yeah. When the person's getting emails that, allegedly from Katie, so, and the police closed the investigation down. So, someone else is getting harassed, but it's only KJ that matters, Right. Kevin Davis is a professional dancer. His TikTok account has 864,000 followers. Kevin had known some other Shekinah members, including Aubrey and Kylie, for years. Prior to being introduced to Shekinah, one member named B-Dash invited Kevin to Bible study at Shekinah. After that Bible study, B-Dash invited Kevin and his partner, skin claimant Kalia Gray, to a party, which turned out to be a Bible study at Robert's house. At that time, Kevin and Kalia were looking for an apartment in Los Angeles because they were moving from Sacramento for work opportunities. At the dinner, Robert told Kalia and Kevin that he had 2 rooms in a large house and that they could pay $2,200 a month without a credit check. In March 2021, Kevin joined Shekinah, and in April 2021, he started working with 7M. Originally, 7M told Kevin that they would take 15% on all brand deals, but they actually took 20%. Oh, here's the laptop saga. While Kevin was in Shekinah, Shirley asked if anyone needed repairs for laptops or computers. Kevin needed a screen fix and told Shirley not to have the repair people touch the hard drive or anything other than the screen. Kevin later found out they sent Shirley the laptop back, and Shirley resent it a second time for repairs without Kevin's consent. Ultimately, the laptop was not repaired, and 5 years' worth of music by Kevin and roughly $10,000 worth of software were destroyed. Kevin was given a different laptop that did not work, and no other compensation or rectification. Shekinah had Kevin doing construction and pulling nails for their SOM property for free and in dangerous conditions, even though Robert would tell Shekinah members that there was a team of people working on the church. We have working bees at church all the time. We do lots of volunteer. You do lots of volunteer work for your church. Kevin was also asked to create choreography and music for 7M and a short film for Shekinah called The Circuit. Kevin was never compensated for that either. A short order cook says, KJ, if she knows who it is, as she says she does, she needs to tell the police, as the perp can stop doing it to others. But KJ won't say who it is. She's blaming the victim. Correct. All right, on top of the 20% 7M was taking, Kevin was also giving, I just lost my page. He was also giving, he was also giving 30% of his income to Shekinah, 10% tithe, 10% to the man of God, and 10% offering. Robert said during sermons that most of the tithes and offerings were to go to other churches. On information belief, those funds did not go to other churches because they were never mentioned in services or at meetings. When amounts were given to other prophets, they were minimal in comparison to what members had donated, specifically for the visiting prophets. Well, how do you know what was given? Because unless you were talking to everybody and found out what everyone gave. Robert only ever spoke about what he was getting and how much money he had, but never about what he was doing with the thousands of dollars he was taking from members. Robert told Kevin he was too smart, and Kevin and Kalia were not invited to certain meetings. Again, that destroys the thing about information belief is not receipts. This is what we think. It's like stab in the dark. When lawyers say it on information and belief, lawyers will often use it to say that's what on information and belief, that's what our clients have told us. It works for lawyers. I don't know, but yeah. Robert also told Kevin to die to his family, even his son. Robert tried to make Kevin stop helping his family and told Kevin not to send them any money. Sometimes Robert would make Kevin text Daniel to get approval for sending funds. Why weren't they monitoring his? Why? Now, did you notice that neither Aubrey or Kevin are talking about their bank accounts being dealt with somebody else. And nobody can go onto your bank account without your permission either. Robert tried to create competition among members by comparing them and wondering out loud who would achieve financial milestones first. Kevin noticed that Robert took credit for every success or accomplishment by a Shekinah member. Hands up, everyone who's had a boss that has done that. Just a few months after joining, Kevin told Kalia that he had a bad feeling about Shekinah. He did not like how the members were treated and that Shekinah was taking almost 50% of their income. Kevin felt that Robert's position that he should be told things that a husband and wife. Kevin also felt Robert's position that he should be told things a husband and wife would not tell each other was negatively affecting. Doesn't make any sense. Let me read that again. Kevin also felt that Robert's position that he should be told things that a husband and wife would not tell each other was negatively affecting Kevin and Kalia's relationship. Kevin and Kalia met up with their friends in Shekinah and explained that they were being also treated badly. Kylie talked about her experience when Robert assaulted her and made her feel uncomfortable. Interesting. Kylie said that the men and the women never got together, and it was the group of girls. She said that in that interview. Now she's saying that they met up together, Kylie and Kalia. Kylie with Robert and assaulted her. In July 2022, left Shekinah, stopped working with 7M. Since leaving Shekinah, Kevin has been experiencing panic attacks and his mental health has suffered significantly. There you go. So again, what part's correct? I mean, the court has to take what's here as true and correct. All right? But Kylie's interviews does not match that. That's the way I feel when I've left every job. Correct. Oh, look, there are days where I hate there's days when I hate teaching music. I hate it. All right, so this is Kalia Gray. How long have we been going for? I'm just wanting to keep an eye on I don't want to be here for hours tonight. This is going to take us a few nights to get through this. So we've got Kalia Gray. She joined in March 2021. So again, most of the complaints, though, are talking about the church aspect, not the 7M aspect. Have you noticed that? Throughout her time at Shekinah, Kalia was told by Robert and Shelley that tithes by her and other members would be used for churches to help save souls and help other Christian groups. The message was that Shekinah would use this money to help others. Kalia was told this by Robert during his sermons and by Shelley through text message, but not limited on April 25, May 9, August 25, November 3, 2021. In addition to tithes, Kalia was told that the Man of God donations, another donation Shekinah required, would be used to help others. This was told to Kalia by Robert at a sermon on September 21, 2021. Finally, when Shekinah had prophecy nights, Kalia was told that the prophets. Kylie said she stayed because she wanted to be with her boyfriend. That part was relevant. Yes, but she never said that, did she? She never said that in her documentation. And she didn't say whether, and neither of them have said whether they left together or separately either. That's not in here either. Finally, when Shekinah held prophecy nights, Kalia was told that the prophets, individual visiting from other churches, would be given the donations. Robert and Shirley told her this around March and April 2022. Okay, but she joined in 2021. Kalia later, I'm wondering whether that should be 2021. Correct, short order. No, that wasn't mentioned. There's a lot that is relevant to the story but left out of the statement. Correct. And remember that the judge is not going to watch. The judge is not going to do Google searches to find out anything. The judge is going to read these statements. And as I'm reading these statements, I'm forming questions. And what a judge will do is the judge will write down questions that they have and go, well, how have they done this? How have they done that? If this is the case, how's this happened? Because neither Aubrey or what's his face, Kevin, talked about, they talked about having to hand over their money. They were not told that their bank accounts were monitored. Why is that? Wouldn't that have been an important point to show that they were monitoring everybody's bank accounts? If that's what they're doing, if you're trying to show that they're stealing money from you, from your bank accounts, because at the moment, most of them have an employment payment, have got employment, it's an employment issue. It's a wage issue or wage claim. But because Aubrey and Kevin haven't mentioned the bank account, therefore you can't say that they've all suffered the same thing. Anyway, we'll see what the other explanations are. But anyway, so Kalia later discovered the money was not given to them. How did she discover that? Kalia gave the tithes, man of offerings, and prophecy nights offerings based on representations of where the money would go, and had no reason to believe this was false, and she would not have done so had she known the truth. No, that wasn't mentioned. There is a lot missing that is relevant to the story, but left out of the statement here. She kind of, well, just in my opinion, right, it would have more impact for that, if that was true, to have every single person talk about that fact that their bank accounts were monitored. It seems strange that they are all separate issues involving different people. And Aubrey's complaint was that he was managed. That's all Aubrey's complaint was. He had to turn up at a certain time, and he just didn't have. He was sort of complaining that he wasn't doing that. He was being told what to do. Well, that's what a manager does. Anyway, she kind of asked Kalia to check in with her mentor Shirley and showed her examples of how she expected to behave. I want to know also. We've now got Shirley mentoring a few of them, or they've all got a few mentors. How on earth do they have all the time to spend with these people? They wrapped up commands and suggestions to make it seem as though Kalia was making decisions based on her own free will. In truth, Robert and Shirley were imposing their will on Kalia using religion and her love of God to do so. Robert and Shirley quickly worked to isolate Kalia from her family. Shirley told Kalia that being near her son before she was made new or healed would cause him to go to hell, and it'd be Kalia's fault. Shekinah, Robert, and the mentors made it seem like they all had the cure for all of Kalia's problems, and if she stayed around them, it would save her family. Short order says that they independently contracted under management, employed under management, have management which I don't get their structure or their obligations to business. No, that doesn't seem to be explained, short order, and that's that I think is where the problem lies, because we don't know. There seems to be no written contract obligations. And anything that they seem to talk about is verbally. So I have so many questions. Hello, Peter. Oh, hey, you missed. We've just solved the hip thrust part, Peter, and you missed it. If you want to actually crack somebody's back standing up, you can do it, but you've got to make a hip thrusting movement. We watched a video of it. So he wasn't actually SA-ing Kylie. He was actually cracking her back because we watched it. We watched it. I can see why she felt like she was assaulted, but I can see why they thought there was no case to answer because show the hip thrust. You want to see it again? All right. I'll have to go. I closed that window down. I'll have to find it again. Hey, I have to say, I did feel a little bit violated watching it. It was, all right, let's watch this. Ow! In fact, if you notice, the woman says, find someone that's not going to sue you, right? And that's the problem. All right, so here we go. Ooh. Watch this. Okay. Ready? You need to find somebody. Okay, watch this.
That won't sue you.
Oh, you guys see that move done all the time. If you're going to adjust or mobilize your friends, okay, find someone who...
That won't sue you.
That won't sue you. And here is the best way to do it. Have them cross one arm over and the other one. Pull the elbows together like this. Try to grab both elbows, pull them into the chest. One hand. Have them rest the chin on the chest. Get down low, good squat position for you. Get your other hand back. So I'm pulling the elbows in the chest. Take a deep breath in, and what you want to do is put your point of contact with your chest, your sternum, right in the middle of the back. So scoot down, take a deep breath all the way in, and let it all the way out. And what you can do is lean up and wait till they relax. Give them a little pop, like this. And if it's for a dude, elbows in, chin in the chest, big grip, big bear hug. Some just went there. Breath in, all the way out, lean back, pop. Make sure they let their air out, and you can teeter them. Oh, we're done. That's the video right there.
There you go. There's your hip thrust. The big bloke. So what you're going to do now, Peter, is find the most good-looking guy and show him the video and ask him to do your back. So, yes, that's how you do it standing up. And they had to do it a couple of times, did they? So, yeah, so that is the hip thrust, I guess, she was talking about. Because she talks about Robert cracking her back and made a hip thrust. That would be probably why it didn't go anywhere. They had to do it a couple of times. Yeah, all right. So she said, so we're at 221. Shirley and Robert quickly worked to isolate Kalia from her family. Shirley told Kaylee, I think it's Kaylee, sorry, Kaylee, that being near her son before she was new or healed would cause him to go to hell, and it would be Kaylee's fault. Shekinah, Robert, and the mentors made it seem like they had the cure for all of Kaylee's problems, and if she stayed around them, it would save her family. They knew that Kaylee had been SA'd as a child. Kaylee felt that Robert, Shirley, and Shekinah took advantage of her mental state she was in and the trauma she had been through to manipulate her. For example, Kaylee had accounts on several social media platforms for survivors of SA. Shirley said that Kaylee's social media platforms were of the devil and that she should delete them because she was not listening to God by having them. Kaylee had amassed over 58,000 followers on TikTok and Instagram and was told by Shirley to delete them. Shekinah also controlled Kaylee's finances. Here we go. Shirley told Kaylee to join bank accounts with Kevin and Shirley, monitored how much they were spending for themselves versus giving to Shekinah. Here we go. So now we've got the joint bank account. Kevin never mentioned it in his. Robert said the dancers needed help with videography. Kaylee had dropped out of school because Robert and Shirley said that her time should be dedicated to Shekinah, so she had time to learn videography and help out No one gave Kaylee any credit for the videos that she shot in Shekinah. Cross-Defense defendant Isaiah has posted these videos online and received money from them. Robert and Shirley made Kaylee feel like she was beneath her friends who were dancers. The non-dancers were told to support the dancers because it benefited everyone, but the different treatment of the dancers made Kaylee feel ugly and unworthy. Through 7M, Hannah agreed to give Kaylee $2,000 a month to do videography for 7M. However, Kaylee was only paid around $1,000 for that work. Kaylee gave approximately 10% of her income as a tithe to Shekinah, but Shekinah and Robert misled her as to what her contributions to Shekinah were for. He told Kaylee that Shekinah gives away their money to other churches and that they're going to use those funds to build a new building for Shekinah. On information and belief, none of that money went to other churches or to fund a new building for Shekinah. And in July 2022, Kaylee left Shekinah and stopped working for 7M. So, thoughts. Dedicated to Shekinah or dedicated to 7M? It was 7M she was working for, not Shekinah. Correct, short order. See, even they're intertwining. But most of the complaints. So, she's saying that they had agreed to pay her $2,000 a month. She was only paid $1,000 a month. If she's wanting the extra $1,000 a month, that's a employment issue. So she's implying essentially that when you give money to your church, you don't have to know where it goes from. When you give your tithes, like when we give our tithes and offering, we don't know what's done with it. We know because our accounts are audited and everything like that. But it goes to the running of the church. It goes to pay the wages of the ministers. So you know that it's going to be used for day-to-day costs. All right, so their accusations fraud. All cost complainants re-allege and incorporate by reference of allocations contained in the preceding paragraphs. Robert and the mentors individually and as agents of Shekinah represented to all cross complainants that tithes and offerings given to Shekinah and Robert would be used to support Shekinah, other religious institutions, or individuals visiting as prophets or Shekinah prophets in lights. The dates of these representations are set forth in the allegations contained in the preceding paragraphs and incorporated by reference. But if they're paying tithes and offerings, unjust enrichment is what those statements are about. I would say so, but they're saying it's fraud. On information and belief, these representations were false because members' actuals, offerings, and tithes never added up to the final numbers given by Robert and the mentors. Robert and their mentors individually and as agents of Shekinah knew the representations were false when the representations were made, or at the very least, never intended to honor their representations because none of the offerings were ever reflected on Shekinah's end-of-year offering receipts. Shekinah and Robert and Shekinah would claim the monetary donations were used to do God's work. The tax documents provided to members at the end of each year were inaccurate. We've seen thousands of dollars that were given to Robert and Shekinah. Donations and tithes aren't tax deductible. Was it? This is the thing. But wasn't it Shirley and Hannah? I know. Is it Shirley or Hannah? Or Hannah and Shirley? Or I don't know, Larry, Curly, Mo? I don't know. It's confused. Like this is so confusing. All right. Hannah, who controlled the accounts? Hang on. No, nobody. Ties are confidential. What you give to the church is confidential. Nobody knows. Well, some people know. The people in the office, like the people that process them, do, but it's confidential. So Hannah, who controlled the accounts of many Shekinah members, I thought it was Shirley, including Alicia Lee, would write checks to Shekinah and Robert, but these checks never reflected the members' tax returns as offerings. You don't put offerings. You can't claim offerings. Gee whiz! Imagine if you could claim your offering to churches as a tax deduction. Everyone be giving money to their church. Oh, yeah, I did. I fell off my chair. I'm sorry, I fell off my chair. I just got excited about a new tax deduction. Oh, do you reckon I could try it? Oh. All right, sorry. All right. So, Hannah, who controlled many of the accounts of many Shekinah members, I thought it was Hannah. I mean, I thought it was Shirley, including Alicia Lee, would write checks to Shekinah. So it's starting the whole thing a chair collapse, correct? Instead, Robert, Hannah, Matthew, Isaiah, Shirley, individually and as agents of Shekinah, used the tithes for personal expensive and lived lavish lifestyles. But again, how do you know that it was that money? Because Robert Chin had lots of eggs and lots of eggs in lots of different baskets. Surely the lawyer who wrote this checked with the tax lawyer now. Well, there's been lots of mistakes in this document. So, all right, all cross complainants reasonably relied on representations that tithes and offerings would be used to support Shekinah and other religious institutions when tithes and offerings were given, because this is commonly accepted purpose of tithing. And they were explicitly informed that the money would be used to support Shekinah and other religious institutions. Well, it was, wasn't it? Cross complainants had no reason to know that their tithes would be used otherwise when given. So they're saying that to pay the church staff is not what you would do. How else does the church get money if not through tithes to pay the staff? Oh, I really like your channel, but it's hard to watch because the sound and picture is very distorted much of the time. I'm not sure, Linda. I'm sorry about that. They are making assumptions on this wealth. Cross complainants' reliance on Robert and the mentor's representation was a substantial factor in causing cross complainants harm. Cross complainants were harmed in an amount to be determined by trial. Cross defendants' actions were done with malice, fraud, oppression, and making them liable for punitive damages. I'm really not sure, but imagine finding, you'd be surprised what your tithes and offerings go to. But surely the people that work in the church deserve to be paid as well. Check your settings. Okay. Okay. Promissory fraud by Marilyn and David against Shirley and Shekinah. Marilyn and David re-allege and incorporate by reference. And again, this is, hope KJ's not seen where they get to see a cost code for. Well, there's been no allegations of, I don't know how they've even got some of their allegations because have come up because Aubrey's, I think, is a non-event. Oh, really? All of your church donations are tax, assuming your okay. See, in Australia, Deanne, in Australia, my offerings for my church is not tax deductible. It's a gift. Anything that's given, for example, for specific ministry work, I can ask for a receipt. But my normal tithes and offerings I also cut my leg, so I'm just putting a band-aid on my leg when I fell off the chair. Our tithes and offerings are not tax deductible as a general rule. Okay, so they allege yes, an offering is different to a donation. Yeah, or a tithe and offering is different to a donation. I see it as two different things. But a donation is can be tax deductible, where an offering is not. Okay, so Marilyn and David against Shirley and Shekinah. So we've got Shirley and Shekinah. What was the first one? The first one is against Robert, Hannah, Matthew, Isaiah, Shirley, Shekinah. And where the other anonymous people is in this? Well, that's right. There's only 20 people in the church and another 6 dancers. So again, it's all from Shekinah. I still don't know why or how Melanie and Priscilla were put into a 7M thing when there was still nothing there. Right. Yeah, so donation usually goes to not-for-profit. Yeah. So Marilyn and David re-allege and incorporate by reference the allegations contained in the preceding paragraphs set forth. Cross-defendant Shirley, individually as a representative of Shekinah, represented to Marilyn and David that Shekinah would find housing for and take care of their family in or around February 2021, when Shekinah member and cross-defendant Matthew told David to quit his job in Orange. Around the same time, Robert told Marilee and David to sell their house and move to Janja. After moving into the new house Shekinah found for them, Shirley again represented to Marilyn and David that it was all taken care of. On information and belief, Shirley and Shekinah had no intention of honouring the false promise that Shekinah would take care of Marilyn and David's family with respect to housing. Shirley told Marilyn not to ask questions regarding housing because Shirley would handle everything, and any attempt by Marilyn to ask questions was shut down. Matthew instructed David to quit his job in Orange, knowing that Marilyn's income was insufficient to pay for the $5,000 monthly lease chosen by Shirley, an amount that Marilyn and David were not aware of until it was too late and their home was already in escrow. In fact, Shirley was the one in contact with the leasing office, and Marilyn and David were not even aware of the location of the home until the day they moved in. So are they trying to say that they forged their signatures because the lease agreement shows their signatures? It clearly said, when Marilyn informed Shirley that she could not afford all of the expenses for the house she kind of found for her, Shirley shut her down and said that she needed to learn to submit and serve others. Shirley told Marilyn and David to have faith, and unfortunately they placed their faith in her and Shekinah, truly believing that Shekinah had their best interests in mind and that Shekinah would be supporting them so that they would be able to live their life as members of Shekinah. 3 weeks after knowingly moving them into a home they could not afford, Shirley sent a text message to Marilyn to inform her that 2 strangers would be moving into the house within 2 hours' time to help the family afford the housing. Shekinah forced David and Marilyn to take on roommates they did not know, with no regard for the children living in the house. And this was not discussed, contemplated, or desired by Marilyn or David. You could argue that they couldn't afford, they were saying they couldn't afford the rent. I mean, I'm just throwing arguments out there. On information belief, Shirley individually and as a representative of Shekinah deliberately made false promises that Shekinah would take care of their housing and induced David to quit his job in Orange and induced Marilyn and David to sell their home and move into the house in Tajenga, thereby allowing Shekinah member greater access to ability to exert control over Marilyn and David. Shekinah and Shirley knew of Marilyn and David's financial debt and monthly income, yet still instructed them to list their home, have David quit his job in February, 1 month before they moved into their new home, requiring them to be responsible for the lease well above their budget. 2 weeks later, Shirley, where did my posts go? Shirley and Shekinah had access to Marilyn and David's bank account and was able to exert full control by setting them up to be fully and completely dependent on Shekinah and trusting that Shirley and Shekinah had their best interest in mind. Don't forget, they were talking about that there was 15, they had money in their account because they'd sold their house. Marilyn and David relied on Shirley and Shekinah's representations when David quit his job in Orange and moved the family into the home Shekinah found for them in whatever, that Marilyn and David could not afford alone. Marilyn and David would have behaved differently had they known the premises were false, and in that David would not have quit his job in Orange and the family would not have moved into the home they could not afford. Marilyn and David's reliance on Shirley and Shekinah's false promises were justified because Shirley and Matthew, as representatives of Shekinah, presented themselves as trustworthy mentors that wanted the best for Marilyn and David. Shirley and Shekinah's false promises inducing Marilyn and David's reliance thereon was the direct and proximate cause of harm Marilyn and David suffered, but their family would not have suffered for the cross-defendant's form. Peter says, these are who signed over their bank accounts. Deanne says, okay, but they made the choices, and sometimes people lie. They left and were allowed to leave. The other thing, remember, yeah, I'm up to the causes of action, up to paragraph 245. It's under causes of action. The other thing is, don't forget that because they were in debt, Shirley was tightly controlling the finances. Remember, they could only go out once a month, and they were complaining about the fact that they were restricted to spend money despite not having it. Which their family would not have suffered but for the cross-defendant's fraud. Paragraph 245. Marilyn and David were harmed as a result of the fraudulent inducement in an amount to be determined at trial. Marilyn and David's harm includes, but is not limited to, the costs involved in selling their home and the loss of any value from the sale of the home when Studio on the Mount paid them, and Shirley took that money, the costs incurred renting a home they did not desire, the money lost by David as a result of quitting his job. The damages also include the $10,000 they paid for the new home and the $15,000 they paid in moving costs. Hang on a minute, but the $10,000 deposit. Cross-defendants' actions were done with malice, fraud, oppression, making them liable for punitive damages. Correct, short order. The brother was in, remember, it was mentioned that the brother was in the church, but we still don't know where it's here. All right, now we're up to the human trafficking. The allegation. Now, this is Alicia against Robert, Shirley, Hannah, Shekinah, RCP, and Alpha. We have not got to 7M yet. The man had an income. Why would they force him to quit his job? Surely ties from a guaranteed income would be more attractive. I would have thought so. But they moved towns, I believe. There's lots of things that aren't making sense, I guess. And she was pregnant at the time too. All these pregnant people, hey? Yeah, because David had a brother. But again, this is like a labour. This is an employment. Some of this is an employment dispute. And this is a housing dispute, a lease dispute. I mean, the defence to that would be the $10,000 or $15,000 covered their lease amount for the time that they were there. You know, they paid in advance. Miss Lee, so we've got human trafficking by Alicia Lee against Robert, Shirley, Hannah, Shekinah, RCP, and Alpha. I can't wait to get to Aubrey's because Aubrey's is going to be, I had to do what I was told. Miss Lee alleges and reincorporates by reference the allegations contained in the preceding paragraphs. She was deprived of personal liberty by Robert, Shirley, Hannah. There must have been a realtor's fee. Well, they would have had to have paid a realtor's fee. There was probably some sort of tax, government tax that had to be paid because, let's face it, the government doesn't let you do anything. So Miss Lee was deprived of personal liberty, and I think that's what they wanted, wasn't it? The money loss, the loss of any value from the sale of their home. So they want all of that paid back. But at the end of the day, they sold it. So we haven't got to 7M yet. No, the human traffickings by Shekinah, RCP, and Alpha. So Miss Lee was deprived of personal liberty by Robert Shirley Hanna individually and as agents of Shekinah, RCP, and Alpha. Miss Lee's control over life was limited by cross-defendants who exerted significant control over Miss Lee's finances, housing, food intake, sexual activity, job, and more. I still don't know where the husband is. Robert Shirley Hanna individually and as agents of Shekinah, RCP, and Alpha recruited Miss Lee to Shekinah, housed Miss Lee, deprived Miss Lee of her liberty with the intent to force Miss Lee to provide labour and services. Now, remember, it said that she came from Korea when she was in her teens. Now, this is something that was very interesting I came across. I went and looked on Instagram. She says, this was taken at the church I attended when I was 15 to 16 years old, when I was living in Korea. My mother had disappeared and we had no place to live and no one wanted to take us in. And somehow we found my dad. So we moved to Korea when I was 15 years old to live with my dad. He picked us up at the airport, dropped us off at my aunt's condo, and he disappeared too. My aunt was religious, so we had to attend church with her, and this was the church she was attending. During our trip to Korea, Gummy Sharks, that's the director, and the team were given permission to enter and shoot inside. I felt like my journey as a Christian started at this church, and I wanted to see it again. So she was saying, so they're saying that when she was a young teen in her statement, but here she's saying she was 15 to 16 when, and she was still in Korea. So she must have been late teens. Well, that's right. This is the third time she came back. She left 3 times. She left twice, came back 3 times. So they're saying that they groomed, they're sort of saying, they're sort of alleging that she was groomed. Okay? They recruited her with the intent to force Miss Lee to provide labour and services. She was coerced into performing services and having her liberty restrained by means of a plan or scheme enacted by cross-defendants Robert Shirley Shekinah to cause Miss Lee to believe that if she did not perform such services, she would be disobeying the man of God and would suffer serious harm by means of a plan or scheme enacted by cross-defendants Robert Shirley Shekinah. Cross-defendants intended to cause Miss Lee to believe that if she did not perform such services, correct, short order, she'd be disobeying the man of God and would suffer serious harm, including her and her family going to hell, inviting Satan into her family's life, becoming demon-possessed, experiencing anxiety, depression, potentially losing her job, being physically assaulted by other Shekinah members, and or being emotionally abused and berated by Shekinah members in front of others. In fact, Miss Lee suffered serious psychological harm at the hands of Robert and Shirley as a direct result of her refusal to perform certain sexual services for Luke. Miss Lee had to ask permission to receive medical care from Robert and subsequently was denied medical care when her ankle was injured. Performing services is a bit broad, like he did make her work in real estate, says without a lawyer. Yes. Yes, he did make her work in real estate. And short order, yes, KJ did say she was 13 years old, which is why that post was very interesting. But, and in this cross complaint, it said in her late teens, but it has to be after 16. Or like she had to have been older than that. So I'm wondering whether it's 18, 19, which means she wasn't a child and was groomed. She was, well, it would be she was age of consent when she arrived, I guess. In 1999, it says she arrived. So why didn't he treat the ankle? I don't know why. Yeah, that's all these questions, all of his questions. Miss Lee was harmed and his owed damages in the amount to be determined at trial, including attorneys' fees and costs. Cross-defendants' actions were done with malice, fraud, oppression, making them liable for punitive damages. Okay, so now we've got aiding and abetting human trafficking by Alicia Lee against Young and Abraham. We've got 2 new players now. Okay. Miss Lee was harmed and is owed damages is another board statement. So we've got four causes. So we've got fourth cause of action. Let's just scroll down. Fifth cause of action is forced labour. Now we get to 7M. As I said, the forced labour is essentially a pay dispute. The court could say, yeah, you're owed this amount of money. Then we've got forced labour again. Breach of voluntary assumed fiduciary duty. And then we've got Shekinah. So I think 7M's in there like once or twice. Breach of voluntary against, and there's Shekinah again. It's the church that's the problem. Aiding and abetting. We still don't have our waterboarding yet. Emotional, intentional emotional distress. Oh yeah, intentional emotional distress. 12th and 13th. Cause 12th intentionally admitted. I don't know what that means. Gender violence. Okay. Aiding and abetting gender violence. I think we're work environment harassment. Again, no. So 7M's been mentioned once to date. Aiding and abetting. Sexual battery. Sexual battery, again, aiding and abetting. We've also got sexual battery Kylie against Robert. Oopsies. Battery. So, yes, Kylie against Robert is battery. I don't know how she's going to get that. Conversion. Breach of contract. So we've got breach of contract by Kevin and Aubrey against 7M. Implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing. They are, in my opinion, they're throwing poo on the wall and hoping it sticks somewhere, because some of these are a bit of a flash in the pan. Oh, it appeared on mine. Okay, so let's have a look at this, because let's go back to where we were. We're going to have to do, we're only up to page 48. We're only up to page 48. So we're going to have to go back. So we're going to have to do a part 3, I think. Because this is going on forever and ever and ever. Right. What cause of action do we get to? Oh, yes, that's right. So now we're doing forced labour. Okay, so this is Alicia Lee. So, okay, so essentially it would look like 7M's issues are contract issues, right? And so based on the fact there's some contract dispute issue, a whole Netflix documentary was made over the fact that it was a cult over contract issues. Make that make sense. Make that make sense. Oh, thank you, Deanne. Oh, thank you. Very, very generous of you. I'm just trying to make it make sense, but it's not making any sense to me. So I apologize. Okay, so this is forced labor. They're just throwing poo at a wall at the moment. I think, in my opinion, the strongest one is going to be the contract dispute. But then if there's no written contract, really, what have you got? We all know how to crack backs now. I can see there's a whole group of us now going to be looking for the most gorgeous looking guys, asking if we can crack their backs. Oh boy. Okay. So let's look at this course of action, and then I probably will call it a night because that's another nearly 2-hour one. If I get some time tomorrow, I might pre-record a couple of them as I can't see your posts anymore. Oh, you had the federal minister there. How much did that cost us, Peter? Which one, by the way? Okay, so Miss Lee realleges incorporates by reference to allegations contained in the preceding paragraphs. Miss Lee performed services for Robert. Oh, the way that they've written this paragraph, I'm sorry. Miss Lee performed services for Robert, Alpha, RCP, and Luke, including mortgage, real estate, and sexual services. That's not very well written, in my opinion. Miss Lee performed these services by means of a trafficking plan or scheme enacted by cross-defendants Robert, Shirley, and Shekinah to cause Miss Lee to believe that if she did not perform such services, she'd be disobeying the man of God, and that as a result, Miss Lee would suffer serious harm, including her and her family going to hell, inviting Satan into her and her family's life, being demon-possessed, experiencing anxiety, depression, potentially losing her job, being physically assaulted by other Shekinah members, and being emotionally abused and berated by Shekinah members in front of others. In fact, Miss Lee suffered serious psychological harm at the hands of Robert and Shirley as a direct result of her refusal to perform certain sexual services for Luke. So what it sounds like from what they've written that she performed services, including sexual services, is that she's complaining that she didn't get paid for it. Is what I'm. Brendan O'Connor, and I drank more booze than him, so I went on the taxpayer front. Right. He's from Melbourne. Oh, that's right. He's the TAFE minister, isn't he? On information and belief, all cross-defendants knowingly benefit from Miss Lee's forced labour, or at least recklessly disregarded the fact that RCP and Shekinah engaged in obtaining the forced labour and services through such trafficking plans or schemes. That's Miss Lee was harmed and is owed damages in amount to be determined by trial. But how can you say it was? How can you? I'm not quite sure. But isn't trafficking wouldn't it be trafficking if Robert Shinn demanded that she perform those? Oh, because they're saying that was the. Oh yes, because she was told she had to perform. They should have been different issues or in a different lawsuit, correct? But because she performed services on Luke, they're saying it's a trafficking arrangement. So she's accusing Robert of being a pimp, I guess. I'll be interested to see what Luke's got to say about that. And again, in that paragraph, there's nothing about her marriage. Like, oh, this is not in Australia. They would have charged the whole lot. Hey, I wonder if that's how Lerman got his massage, whether the NDIS got charged to it. Hey, I'm in the wrong business. I discovered. I think I need to be a service provider for the NDIS. All right, we'll look at the sixth cause of action because this is forced labour. Miss Lee re-alleges Miss Lee performed craft services for Imaginating. Cross-defendant Shirley obtained Miss Lee's services on behalf of Imaginating by instructing Miss Lee to provide craft services. Every time I see the word craft services, I think of, making arts and craft. What is craft services? I haven't. I don't know which attorneys because none of the attorneys want to have anything to do with him. Oh, craft. Oh, is that all it's called? Craft services is just providing food. You'd have to go through 6 people and a driving test to get this. Oh, is that what they're complaining about? Oh, I could do that. Miss Lee performed these services by means of a trafficking plan or scheme enacted by cross-defendants Robert and Shirley Shikine, which caused Miss Lee to believe that if she did not perform such services, she'd be disobeying the man of God and would suffer serious harm, including, whatever, we've just done that. On information belief, cross-defendants Imaginating Robert and Shekinah knowingly benefited from Miss Lee's forced labour, or at least recklessly disregarded the fact that Imaginating and Shekinah engaged in obtaining of forced labour and services through such trafficking plans or schemes. Miss Lee was harmed and is owed damages in an amount to be determined on trial. It's going to come down to contract, isn't it? So a few tuna sandwiches is now trafficking. All right, here's another question. If they had said that if they'd asked her to provide craft services for Sunday service, would she say that was trafficking? That would be, they would say that she was volunteering her services. So now, in fact, here's another thing, is volunteering now trafficking? So we're at page 45 of 101 and the 7th cause of action. I'm going to leave it there because I've just about had enough. My brain is just frying at the moment because none of them read contracts. They just signed blindly. I can see that as them a problem, not a 7M problem. Correct, Suki, that's good. They are grasping at toothpicks, not even at straws. It's definitely bizarre. As I said, 7M, from what I could not pick up a complaint from Aubrey other than the fact that he had no control as to the jobs he did. He essentially was being managed, which I thought, and that he was getting the money after all the deductions had come out of it. And I thought that's what a manager does. The work that I do, craft services are those little things that need to be made. Fake fruit hair G-strings, but crafty. Hair on fake G-strings. Cool. So I'm just a bit boggled. I think they're clutching at straws. I know, I can see why they want the tax documents to see where the money's gone. But what if the money has gone to where they've said it is? There was something else actually that Priscilla Lee, was it Priscilla or Melissa Lee, said that was very interesting, because she said she didn't realize until after she had left and she started talking to the others that there was a problem, which has seemed to be what as they've all started to talk afterwards, they were hearing all different stories. Again, I'm not defending Robert. I'm not defending Shekinah. it sounds like it's dodgy. But I can't, I'm still trying to get my head around the 7M aspect of it, because everything I've heard from 7M has been about the management. And at the end of the day, and it would seem even the legal system, I mean, all right, if Priscilla, I think, is older than Melanie. So Melanie may have been 13, but Priscilla was definitely was, you know, of age when she came here. But they're all talking about how they were vulnerable, and I mean, that's what happens. So they didn't, I'm getting the impression they didn't like the high control nature of 7M. 7M was highly controlled. Since KJ keeps talking about that sandwich, we can call her tuna sandwich. Yeah. All right. So it's definitely, but we haven't found any of the waterboarding stuff. It is. It looks like it, Jay. It looks like it because, you know, they were told that they've been told as they've been talking that it's a cult. So they're trying to make it sound like it's a cult. And they're talking about being vulnerable and everything. They would never have signed a 1030 MGM contract. I don't think that actually 1930s. No, they wouldn't survive in the 1930s MGM. They were cruel. I mean, listening to some of the, you know, when you heard what they had to do. Okay, so we're up to, just so that we know, we're up to. Wait on. Oh, did we do? Oh no, we didn't do aiding and abetting, did we? I jumped one. That's right. We've got to start at the fourth cause tomorrow, the aiding and abetting of human trafficking. Because apparently, oh, and that's right, because there's also EDD fraud. Remember as well. But in the causes of action under fraud, that hasn't come up. So allegedly. I have got, so I've written 3 pages of questions that I'm reading. I'm going, well, where's this? Where's this? Where's this? How's this happened? How have we got to this point? Where's the brother? Did David's brother leave, or did his brother stay behind? Did Marilyn have the baby, or did she not have the baby? What happened to the kids when they were working? Who was looking after the kids? Although there was mention of Kylie having to babysit. My computer came back fine, by the way, Peter. My computer's come back fine. It's still doing a big thing. I am going to see whether I can. I've been trying to upload videos. Did 3 videos today, and they've taken all day to upload. I actually cancelled them so I could. So many unanswered yet no answers. I haven't had any answers yet. And I've even tried to Google, and I could not find answers. So I have no idea what anything is. I do know that there was a court case. There is a court case coming up, I think, at the end of the week, where the judge is making some decisions on. So there was an order for them to pay. Apparently, I don't know. There was this cost or something that there was a statement by the group's lawyers to say that there was some fine or something, and the lawyers. That's why KJ's on that rant, because they're filing they've appealed it. Because you can appeal decisions, it just takes money to appeal. But I mean, it would be interesting to know where Robert makes most of his money from. I mean, he could still have links in Korea for all we know that's making him money. But I don't know. Oh yes, okay. You'll message me. Okay. Mine, I have been Googling on all this, and I've yet to find solid. Yeah, so they want a jury trial. They want this to go to a jury trial. Well, remember, this is the cross complaint. So Robert Shinns sued them, and instead of filing an answer, they've just filed this other complaint. So, yeah. This is the cross complaint. It's a 2025 trial, correct? Is it July? It's in about a year. And I would say that's when KJ's is going to be around that time too. Hers won't be till next year. Because remember, all the dates have been pushed back. Yes, he sued first, and then they cross complaint. And they've just put in their third amendment, so he has to answer that. He had to answer that third amendment, and they've started on discovery. So one in speak, yes, one on the preponderance of probability. Correct. And I have to say that some of these you're looking at, and you're going, like Peter said, why on earth did they sign over their bank accounts? Why did they do this? Why did Priscilla go back the third time? Why did she think it was going to be different every time? And the fact that she was able to leave. KJ does not have a cross complaint because he's done nothing. No, that's right. Hoping for Armageddon. Hey, it's a one that she should become an evangelical and believe in the second coming. Just pushing off discovery for the others goes before her. I think that's what she's hoping, but I think there have been a few things that have been dismissed, a few allegations, I think, from this lawsuit, which once we've gone through this, we'll look at what has been dismissed and what has been dismissed, because there are some elements of it that were dismissed that, as I said, now that we know that you have to hip thrust to crack someone's back, there was no battery by Shin. It will take so you think Suki, she went back because she had money problems? But she must have known at some point in time, if, for example, what she has alleged about the sex with Robert. She obviously had to be aware that that's what she was going back to. I mean, and was it that she realized that she couldn't do anything without him? And so I don't know. You crack your sister's back that way all the time. Well, now I've seen the video, I totally understand it. I need to just make a note on page 42. Page 42 of 101. Oh dear. Page 42 of 101. So let's look at this again. This is the sexual battery case. Well, that's why she called out the tax agent, I think. Okay, so sexual battery. Suspect approached victim from behind and grabbed victim from the hips, and something thrusts in a sexual manner. She must have known. But it doesn't say it doesn't say in that at all that she had asked him to crack her back. Have you noticed what is not in this report? She's just said he approached from behind and grabbed the victim and hip thrust, right, in a sexual manner, right? In the written statement we just saw, it said she asked him to crack her back. He grabbed her and did a hip thrust. That's not what's on this police report. She said he offered to crack her back. So this report, is this report not correct? Because we've watched now. This is what they're saying. This is the, hello, Liz. They are saying here that they did not know. They were saying they didn't qualify. Now they're saying that they did not know about the lease or the address of the lease that they signed. Now either that, I haven't worked out, either they're alleging that somebody else signed on their behalf, but see, it's got Aubrey Fisher there, Ashlyn Lopez, David Lopez, David Gonzalez, Marilyn Gonzalez, Aubrey Fisher Green. Aubrey Fisher, March the 1st, 2021, and the lease shall terminate on February 28, 2023 at 9 p.m. 5,000 per month. So this has been submitted with all these extra names on it. So it's 5,000 for all of them. It's a $10,000 security bond. So they're saying they haven't got that back. Although that does look like that is computer generated. Those signatures do look computer generated. Now they're saying that they lost $15,000. So there was $5,000 for rent. So if there are 4 people living in the and they reckon they didn't know what the premises was. In fact, it's just got I've just realised it's got the address on there, but it's a court document. So here's what I'm not understanding. So they reckon they didn't know. Shin Real Estate Group tenant's agent is Shirley Kim. No, I don't know who the landlord is because apparently it's supposed to be owned by another group. Well, see, I think it's taken advantage. To be honest, I think it's taken advantage of. It gets a bit harder when they're adults because at what point, unless there is a serious mental impairment, it's really hard to show that it's really hard to show that you were taken advantage of, to be honest. So that's what they're saying. So according to this, that's all being signed here, It was signed here. All right. So my question is, if all of those names were on there, why did they think they had to pay the $5,000 themselves? But yeah, I think it's just taken advantage of. And the dancers were I mean, Kylie's saying that they told her that she needed to keep her weight down and everything. I think that is normal for dancers, isn't it? These people had managed to purchase their own home and then sell it, but suddenly have no idea of real estate. Correct. That's what doesn't make, there's so much that's not making sense. Why wouldn't they have checked it? Oh, wow, you should see the house. Oh, 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 oh. It was sold for $1.4 million, by the way. Here's the house. Oh, I want that kitchen. This is why it was $5,000 a month. It had 5 bedrooms. That's nice. Yeah, LA. So it just recently sold. It just recently sold apparently for 1.4. It said it sold for 1.4 million. It's off the oh, and it's rent. Its estimated rent is 5,855. So it is. So I'll just show you. I don't know. I think it was initially owned by one of Shinns companies, and it was managed by Shirley Kim. So it says here, list your home for rent, 5,855 a month, and refinance. It's a luxury Mediterranean hilltop with 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 3,400 of it was built in 2005. So it was listed. Oh, look, here it was. It was listed to rent. Oh, that's when they had it for 5,000, and the listing was removed. Nearby homes. So I don't know who owns it, but it's saying that it was rented on the 5th of the 1st, 2021 for 5,000. And then it was removed. No, I think she was working for Shin Real Estate at that time, or Alpha Real Estate. So yeah, so it's about it says it's about what's worth about 1.4 according to that. And I'm not really doxing anybody because it's on the court documents. So who is the agent? I want to find out who the agent is. Contact with the buyer's agent. It's off market. But anyway, it's a nice house. Yeah, maybe. It just says it's not available for sale or rent at the moment. Wait. Do you think Darwin is equivalent to LA? That's funny. Oh, that's funny. All right. All right, so I get, yeah, so that was what they gave up, I guess, is what they're saying. That was the house that they were forced to have. That was the house they were forced to have, by the way. Yeah, so that was the house. So I love the kitchen. I want the kitchen. Yeah, owner tools. The property taxes were $10,000, $10,382 in 2023. And the tax assessment was $831,679 for that house. So I don't know what that all means. Isn't that called Reptile Park Public Area? Oh. So, oh look, I may as well read. I may as well read one more while seeing we've got a few more people here. I'll go back to page 42. Okay. We'll go back to page 42, and we will. Because I want to see the aiding and abetting of what was it? Human trafficking. Okay, so what we've discovered is that Priscilla Lee was 15. She was still in Korea when she was 15. You love it when you get more me. All right. So we've got here. Oh, no, I don't want the 21st complaint here. We want to go back to here. It's 20. Oh, there's so many complaints here. More of them make me make sandwiches. Okay. Oh, fourth course. Oh, yeah, that's right. Aiding. Oh, that's right. Aiding and abetting human trafficking. Miss Lee, so we've got Alicia. So aiding and abetting human trafficking by Alicia Lee against Young and Abraham. Miss Lee realleges and incorporates by reference allegations in the preceding paragraphs as though fully set in. Cross defendants Robert, Hannah, Shirley, individually and as agents of Shekinah, RCP, and Alpha, coerced services from and deprived the liberty of Miss Lee, allowing Miss Lee recovery under Civil Code 52.5. The cross defendants had actual knowledge of Robert's coercion of services and the deprivation of liberty of Miss Lee, and intended for such coercion and coercion deprivation to occur. On information and belief, cross-defendant Young substantially assisted or encouraged the coercion of sexual services and deprivation of liberty committed by Robert individually and as an agent of RCP against Miss Lee, ensuring that no other Shekinah members were at Chaganga property when Robert wanted to have sex with Miss Lee. Robert Robert followed a pattern with his visits. He would arrive between 2 and 2:40, send a message to Shirley, the house captain, then Shirley would text Young, the next person in charge, who would alert everyone else not to go into the house because Robert was coming and needed to spend time with God. Robert would then enter the house, make his way to Alicia's room, coerce sexual services, and then go to the living room. At that point, Shirley and Young would send a text message to everyone to come to the house and eat because Robert made Miss Lee feel that her job, livelihood, and spiritual well-being was at stake if she did not obey him and have sex with him. Young's knowing facilitation of Robert's sexual extortion, now we've got sexual extortion of Miss Lee, substantially aided the deprivation of liberty committed by Robert against Miss Lee. Cross-defendant Jenny knowingly and substantially assisted, and no, this is the court document that we started last night, Lulu. It's just wild. Cross-defendant Jenny knowingly and substantiated, assisted and encouraged the coercion and services and deprivation of liberty committed by Robert, Shirley and Hannah individually and as agents of Shekinah against Miss Lee by applying for unemployment benefits, not providing Miss Lee with her EDD card, and keeping for herself or providing the same to Hannah and or Shirley instead. Cross-defendant Christina knowingly and substantially aided, assisted or encouraged the coercion of services and deprivation of liberty committed by Robert, Shirley, Hannah individually and as agents. You realise they would have more of a case if they just read this cat. Yeah. Correct, without a lawyer. Taking money from Miss Lee's account when they would call and ask whose money they should use to support fund cross-defendants. I'm sure Katie would talk about, how she was manipulated by, what's his name, in the Tuddy Westbrook case. She'll say that she was manipulated. Cross-defendant Abraham substantially assisted or encouraged the coercion of sexual services and deprivation of liberty committed by Robert against Miss Lee by knowingly continuing to allow Robert to use his property at East City Place to sexually coerce and exploit Miss Lee. So if you own a building, if you own a property and it's used for nefarious means, watch out, you could get sued apparently. Because this guy owned Abraham actually owns the building that they leased. So poor guy has been dragged into this. By knowingly continue to allow Robert to use his property to sexually coerce and exploit Miss Lee. Because Robert made Miss Lee feel that her job, livelihood, and spiritual well-being was at stake. If she did not obey him and have sex with him, Abraham's knowing facilitation of Robert's sexual extortion. Well, is it human trafficking or is it sexual extortion of Miss Lee substantially aided the deprivation of liberty committed by Robert against Miss Lee? Cross-defendant's conduct was a substantial factor in causing Miss Lee harm. Miss Lee was harmed in an amount determined at trial. Cross-defendant's actions were done with malice, fraud, oppression, making them liable for permanent damage. Jay, that would be the first. I would assume that they're all going to have to give evidence at trial. And so one of the first questions would be, you left twice but returned 3 times. Why? There's your first question. Because why? If you knew that this was going to happen to you, why? Because she came back. All right, let's look at the 5th cause of action. Oh, no, we looked at this one because this one talked about trafficking, didn't we? She means she's performed these services by means of trafficking. We looked at that one. 6th cause of action. Oh, that was the craft services one. We looked at that one. Oh, I'm just moving along. All right. This is a breach of voluntary assumed fiduciary duty by Marilyn and David against Shirley and Shekinah. Marilyn and David re-allege and incorporate by reference the allegations contained in the proceedings. Cross-defendant Shirley, individually and as an agent of Shekinah, voluntarily assumed a fiduciary relationship with Marilyn and David. Marilyn and David were made vulnerable to Shirley through Robert Shinn and Shekinah's isolating and controlling tactics, which caused Marilyn and David to become totally dependent on Shekinah, Robert, and Shirley. What happened to the brother? The isolation and dependency left David and Marilyn susceptible to the undue influence exerted by Shekinah, Robert, and Shirley. Shirley, independently and as a representative of Shekinah, knowingly solicited and accepted empowerment over Marilyn and David in the form of demanding, accepting, and utilising access to and control over cross-complainants' finances. Marilyn and David's vulnerability to Shekinah, Robert, and Shirley led directly to their giving Shirley access to their bank accounts and credit cards, which empowered Shirley and ultimately Robert and Shekinah. With other individuals accessing and handling their financial accounts for them, Marilyn and David were unable to effectively protect themselves from Shirley and Shekinah's misuse of their finances and felt less capable of leaving Shekinah and living on their own. In this way, Marilyn and David were unable to effectively protect themselves because of cross-dependence empowerment. As a result, Shekinah and Shirley owed cross-complainants a duty of care. I'm not sure, Short Order. I don't know. They all talk about Shirley acting individually and as a representative of Shekinah intentionally breached that duty of care in utilising her access and control over Marilyn and David's finances to engage in self-interested transaction, misrepresenting to cross-complainants what money taken from their financial accounts would be used for, and outright stealing or embezzling money from cross-complainants' bank accounts and credit cards. Well, the $15,000 that they said went out of the account went to pay for the deposit on the house and the first month's rent. So cross-complainants did not discover or have knowledge of cross-defendants' misconduct causing the breach until around August 22, because cross-complainants reasonably relied on trusted statements from cross-defendants which concealed the breach. Cross-defendants' breaches to Marilyn and David in the matter to be determined at trial. Cross-defendants' actions were done with malice, fraud, oppression, making them liable for punitive damages. Here's the thing, they didn't know how to manage money, and weren't they in debt? Didn't they say before they were in debt? Okay. They had to have something to exert the control over the money. No one is just going to say, oh, you want my money? Sure. If he's doing this to these people, why did it take him to sue them, for them to counter-sue? I have a hard time understanding why they didn't file the suit. Well, remember, who was it? Somebody gave him that, well, he called it extortion, where they demanded a payment of such and such, and that led to him filing the lawsuit. But just to say, you owe me whatever it is, and if you don't do it, I'm going to sue you. Did they outline it? No, they didn't really. I don't think they've outlined any. I mean, this is the third amended complaint. The third amended complaint. I mean, all that we know that they haven't got back is their $10,000 deposit. I mean, that's all, in my opinion, that they would be owed at this point in time, if anything, because that's the only thing that can be proven, that because they've shown the lease of the $15,000 and they've said that they paid that amount, and they did say they didn't get their $10,000 back. Well, that's the only thing that I can think of that they could get back. So, all right, breach of voluntary assumed fiduciary. All right, see you next time, Lulu. We're too far behind. Oh, that's all right, but you will enjoy. We actually solved the hip thrust back cracking thing too. So I won't be much longer, by the way. I'm just about done. Correct. Well, it's supposed to be in a trust fund. Correct. But what I did notice, what I have noticed on this form though, what I did notice is, let me just show you what I noticed, which I thought was very odd. See, here's the $15,000. The $15,000 is accounted for here, okay? Right, which was their move-in deposit, which is what they said they had to pay, okay? What I didn't see here was, I'm going to see if I can find it again. Now, the other thing is they left early, right? So, because they left early, they left in August 2023, they breached the contract early. So remember that there is also there's fees for if you leave early, okay? There was something in here. There was about storage of fees, about the fees. It was on another page. I saw it and I thought, oh, that was, so yeah, well, that's right. So that's the thing. If they forfeited, if they left early, they forfeited their deposit. So then they're not. Where was it? Because I noticed. Let me just tell you, I noticed it didn't say a trust fund. That where the money was being stored, and I thought that was a bit odd. Let's start at the start. Oh, my son went to an employment agency, and they had about the privacy information, and it says available, and he actually asked them for a copy of it. He wanted to read their security policy. All right, shall not be. So there's the security deposit, right? Now it says will be transferred to and held by the owner of the premises or held in owner's banker's trust account. Neither of them's ticked. So what I've noticed is that it does not say, they haven't said how the security deposit was going to be. That to me is, now remember, so they left early. So if the security is held by owner, tenant agrees not to hold bond, a broker responsible for return. If it's held in the broker's trust account, the broker is terminated before expiration of this agreement, and security deposit is released to someone other than the tenant. The broker shall notify the tenant in writing to where the security deposit has been released. Once the tenant has been provided with such notice, tenant does not hold broker. So they've not actually. Well, that is the question. It says a 5,000 agrees to pay 10,000. It's not ticked. Now it says security deposit will not be returned until all tenants have vacated the place. So here it was the 15,000. So if Aubrey was still in the house, for example, or they moved other people in, because Aubrey, these people are on the lease. So, for example, let's just say, but if it was a good working relationship, there was a high level of trust and there wasn't thought of them trying to sue since they were working for you. So, for example, if this had Miranda and James, for example, on here, and they were still in that house, and this lease was still current, for example, then once everyone's left, the security bond would be done. But this terminated on the 28th of February 2023. When did they say they left? I have to go back. And rent shall be paid by. Now, the other thing is, they were talking about rent. The rent was paid by personal check every month, according to this. When did they say they left? So there are 5 people renting the house. There were 5 people's names on the lease. But they were saying that they didn't know. And I can't. May 2021. I'm just saying they left Shekinah August 2nd, 2022. And they reckon that they owed $150,000. So August 2, 2022. And they signed the lease. And the lease expired in 2023. And they signed it in 2021. They were all renting and paying from one account, or they paid. I don't know how it was done. It started on the March 1st, 2021. They were there for 12 months, and this expired on the February 28, 2023 at 9 o'clock. So they left August, September, October, November, December, January. They left 6 months before their lease expired. So technically, they would owe 6 months rent, wouldn't they? $35,000, yeah. So they've not put that into the calculations, obviously. Okay, so their forfeited deposit would be responsible for 6 months. So that $150,000 that they reckon that they're owed, well, the security deposit and the 6 months rent then would be included in that. So there's 40 grand, like that. So yeah, I just think it's interesting that it's not actually listed as to where that money was paid. See, it does say here, though, they are alleging, though, don't forget, this is what they're alleging. They could not afford the $5,000 a month rent, so another Shekinah member signed the lease pretending to be someone else so that they could qualify. So they're saying that somebody else's name was put on there, and they paid the $10,000. They paid the $10,000 as deposit for the rental. She had to pay you. So they admit that they had to pay the $10,000. So Shirley sent text asking Marilyn for $15,000, claiming it was for moving costs. So they had 15. Strangely enough, this was all around the time that Ari and her hype houses had that bad review for TikTok stars, and people really. So, but they're saying that March added herself to banking with a $5,000 rental 2 weeks after moving. But see, it said Kalia Gray and Kevin Davis, but Aubrey Fisher was on the lease. So and then they're saying that Christina Keller. See, this is what I don't understand, okay? They're all saying that they all had to quit their jobs, right? But Christine Keller worked outside. I think they were in a working relationship. They were given a break when things didn't go the way they thought it would, meaning they weren't big dance stars and they bailed. Well, this house the Gonzalez, they weren't dancers at all. They were Shekinah members. So it's really weird. There's lots of things in here not making sense, and I just don't know. They haven't. Well, that's right. 15,000 for which move? It's just so much here. Higher payer job is part of list of trafficking. Is it? But how does she add herself to their bank account? They're a couple. When did they sit down and say how that? Well, I don't know how she's done it on herself. There's another bit that doesn't make sense. Because I know in Australia, you've got to jump through hoops to get onto someone's bank account. But see, only Kylie never said that her bank accounts are monitored. And Aubrey never said that his bank accounts were monitored. Concrete never said his bank accounts were monitored, although Kaylee said that they had to set up a joint account. There's lots of there's more questions than answers in this. No, that's the thing. She does. Apparently, she's listed. Well, according to the documents here, they say that she's a sub mentor of Shekinah. She's a Shekinah member and a sub mentor. So, but what I'm saying is weird, Will, is that she works outside of Shekinah, where everyone else is saying they had to give up their jobs. She hasn't, which doesn't add up. Mass displacement, conflict, extreme poverty, lack of access to job opportunity, violence, social harms like child marriage. You see, that's not trafficking. In my opinion. To be in person, not just a call or mailing. So well, that's right, Jay. It doesn't make any sense. It's not making any sense. There's lots on here that's not making sense. Oh, so I'm not doubting that they. So you can believe that something's happened, and still be wrong. She's pretty. Well, apparently they want a jury trial. I mean, you imagine if you were sitting and listening to all of this. This is her, Christina Keller. She's been with them for 12 years. How can she have a full-time job? In 20, she obtained and worked with a tax firm, Tally and Company, reviewing corporate and individual multi-state income. I just can't see how she would be able to be dodgy working for a big professional firm like that. And how she got time to be a mentor to all these people working full-time. Make that make sense. Well, I mean, but I guess by the time you add all the tears and everything. All right, on that note, I'm going to go to bed, I think. I'm just past my bedtime. Oh, look, I would have thought she would have been caught by now because you do. But she wouldn't have been promoted if she was dodgy, I don't think anyway. But she's been brought into these as the tax agent. But just because she's the tax agent, as I said, a tax agent only uses the documents that they're given to prepare a document. If she's not given everything, then, and she's told that that's everything, she can only assume that she's got everything. That's my understanding of it. So anyway, thank you for being with me tonight. I'm hoping to be on tomorrow night. I've got to finish this stupid complaint, don't I? I'm only up to we're only up to about, there are so many holes in this story, to be honest. And oh, and don't forget, remember they wanted what's her name, Gonzalez, to go on the pill, and she didn't want to go on the pill. So she said she had infertility troubles but had 2 kids. So I don't know. All right. So if you could do me a favor and hit like and subscribe for me. If you haven't done that already, everyone hit like because Jo's the best. Why would you risk her livelihood for this long and no one caught onto it? I don't. Well, that is the question. That is the question. Yeah, I have lots and lots of questions. Maybe I've got to go to LA and Minnesota in 2025. And I need Short Order to come with me, and I need Peter to come with me. We'll make it a girls' trip to LA and Minnesota for these trials, hey? I'm going to need craft services. All right. Until next time, I will catch you later. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.